Hello everyone, please press subscribe, press follow, press the bell so you don't miss any new clips. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Author by Flying Alone. Audio novels by Novelist. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 96. Silver Moon Race. Ling Han could not help feeling moved and followed at the heels of the advancing crowd. There were more and more people joining the crowd, and as they discussed the details about the battle between Zhu Wuju and Mangongji, Ling Han very quickly came to understand the background of these two young men. Zhu Wuju and Mangongji were both ordinary disciples of Huyang Academy, but Mangongji was ranked in the top 10 strongest ordinary disciples, and was an elite martial artist that was qualified enough to issue a challenge to the true disciples in a bid to join their ranks. Zhu Wuju was slightly inferior to him, but ability-wise, he was definitely ranked within the top 20 ordinary disciples, so he was really not that bad. Why is Zhu Wuju still so dead set on fighting with Mangongji? There's nothing to be done about it. Who asked elder brother disciple Nangong to sacrifice elder sister disciple Xuanhuan to save his own life during their previous practical training trip? You've got to understand, elder sister disciple Xuanhuan was Zhu Wuju's lover, so how could he not go crazy? I heard that elder sister disciple Xuanhuan actually died because of elder brother disciple Nangong. She had been injured by his sword, and that was why she had fallen behind and was forced into a life and death battle with the silvery light beast. That's how elder brother disciple Nangong managed to buy the time to flee with his life. Shush. How could you so openly speak of such things? Be careful that Mangongji won't make trouble for you later. He's the 5th young master of the Mangong clan, and his 3rd elder brother, Mangongxing, is even a true disciple with the cultivation level of the 3rd layer of Gushing Spring tier. But Zhu Wuju is indeed faithful. He obviously knows that the Mangong clan is not to be trifled with, yet he would still challenge Mangongji to a duel every year. Just last year, he was so heavily injured that he had almost lost his life. Never thought that he'd issue a challenge again this year. It's a pity that Zhu Wuju is really not that talented. He only has an Earth-grade low-level spirit base and he comes from a poor family, so he can't obtain any additional resources for his development. The gap between him and Mangongji would only become wider and wider. When Ling Han heard the people around him discussing the history between Zhu Wuju and Mangongji, he could not help but feel slightly curious about this Zhu Wuju. The crowd soon arrived at the martial training court of the academy, and they could see there was someone standing within, so the others very naturally did not step into the court. Sparring was an allowed practice of Huyang Academy, and as long as both sides of the battle agreed, they'd be able to carry out their battle in the martial training court. The doctrine was to be as merciful as possible, but even if the fighters did not manage to restrain themselves in time, they wouldn't be punished too harshly. After all, weapons were blind. However, if anyone dared to deliberately injure their opponent, the academy would hand out a very severe punishment. For example, if one of the fighters had already admitted defeat or fallen unconscious, or had otherwise completely lost the ability to defend themselves, yet their opponent continued to attack them, this would be considered a breach of the rules that'd be met with a severe punishment. Ling Han looked at the man that was standing in the martial training court. He seemed to be about 25 or 26 years old. He was a tall man who bore a long sword on his back. He could not really be considered handsome, but his gaze was very intimidating. Usually, others probably dared not look him directly in the eye. Why isn't Mangongji here yet? He's the one being challenged, so of course he has to put on some appropriate airs. I say, how many times has Zhu Wuju challenged Mangongji already? This should be the 5th time, right? That means that 4 years have passed. This guy's perseverance is really a scary thing. With each battle, he would be severely injured and close to death, yet he would still grit his teeth and survive regardless, making others can't help but admire his determination. While waiting, the crowd continued to talk among themselves. They were all expressing sympathy and admiration for Zhu Wuju. Yi. The corners of Ling Han's lips turned up slightly into a grin as he thought, I never thought that I'd be able to encounter someone with a special constitution. His body is surrounded by ripples of faint silvery light, plus the others said that he did not die even after receiving a critical injury 4 times. Instead, he very quickly recovered. This person must be a member of the Silver Moon race. The Silver Moon race was born with the Silver Moon Constitution. This was a constitution that had powerful abilities of recovery, and their bodies themselves could be considered a divine healing pill. As a result, the numbers of this race were pitifully low. They had been hunted down and killed by others, concocted into alchemical pills. I had originally thought that after 10,000 years had passed, this race would have gone extinct. I never thought that I'd be able to encounter one of its members today. Fine, for the sake of the Silver Moon King, I'll give him a helping hand. 10,000 years ago, Ling Han entered the territory of the Silver Moon race to collect some medicinal ingredients. He was very cordially received by the leader of the Silver Moon race of the time, the Silver Moon King. Unfortunately, not long after that, the Silver Moon race was wiped out. Ling Han's cultivation level at that time was still too low, so there was nothing he could do to help. Later on, when he had joined the ranks of heaven-tier cultivators, the culprits responsible for the obliteration of the Silver Moon race had all died of old age. This was one of Ling Han's regrets. Ha ha ha, Zhu Wuju, how many times must you fail before you understand that you will never be a match for me? Meanwhile, a young man strode into the martial training court, a powerful aura emanating from his person. 9th layer of element gathering tier, and he was at the peak period. If he did not have such ability, how else could he have managed to secure his place among the top 10 strongest ordinary disciples? Compared to him, Zhu Wuju was very much inferior, with a cultivation level of only the 7th layer of element gathering tier. Yet everyone knew that cultivation level did not represent one's battle prowess. Since Zhu Wuju was able to rank among the top 20, it could be seen that his actual battle prowess far surpassed his own cultivation level. Speak less nonsense, make your move. Zhu Wuju immediately drew out his sword and made a gesture with it. Nangongji's face was filled with arrogance. He too made a gesture, and this signified that both fighters had agreed to begin this battle. Zhu Wuju rushed forwards, and as his sword swept in an arch, cold light danced about. Nangongji was completely indifferent to this. He was an elite in the top 10, and compared to him, what could a mere Zhu Wuju count as? Ding, 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 ding. The two fighters were quickly embroiled in a fierce exchange of blows. Nangongji was very obviously having the upper hand in this battle. He looked very relaxed, and even managed to mock and ridicule his opponent as the battle went on to attack Zhu Wuju's morale. However, in truth, in his heart concealed a deep dread towards Zhu Wuju. In the previous 4 battles, he had acted to kill Zhu Wuju. Though the latter would not die immediately, if the injury dragged on for another 2 or 3 days, he'd definitely die. And, based on Zhu Wuju's family background, there was no way he'd be able to afford high-grade healing pills to heal his injuries. Yet this guy not only did not die, he recovered from his wounds without any kind of after-effects. After such miraculous recovery occurred 4 times, of course Nangongji would feel dread. He knew his own guilt, and Zhu Wuju was the only person that had relations with Xuanhuan, so as long as Zhu Wuju was still alive, he would continue to be uneasy. This may lead to the day of his breakthrough to gushing spring tier coming so slowly it would seem like forever. As a result, he intended to be absolutely merciless today. He definitely had to kill Zhu Wuju right on the spot today. Defeating and killing were 2 completely different issues. The difficulty level was completely different. Thus, if he wanted to kill Zhu Wuju, then he needed to create an opportunity wherein he could kill Zhu Wuju in a single strike. After the battle, he'd be able to shift the blame away from himself by saying he had not managed to restrain himself in time. The 2 fighters continued to battle for a while, and Nangongji, with his much more superior ability, finally found an excellent opportunity. He stabbed with his sword, creating 3 flashes of cold light which headed directly for Zhu Wuju's heart. This was not sword chi. He had just stabbed so quickly that he had created 2 afterimages. Earth-grade high-level martial arts technique, shadow dance sword arts. He spent all the academic points that he had saved up for this martial arts technique, just to prepare for today so that he could kill Zhu Wuju. Die. He spat out in his mind as he used the strongest move of the shadow dance sword arts to form a merciless attack. Zhu Wuju brandished his sword as well, and actually formed 2 flashes of cold light. Could it be that he was also using an extremely swift sword technique? No. Sword chi. The spectators all gasped in shock. This was sword chi, proof of a ruler. Pooh. 2 spurts of blood appeared at the same time. Nangongji's sword had pierced Zhu Wuju's stomach, while the sword chi that Zhu Wuju had formed had drawn across Nangongji's throat, leaving behind a bloody wound. A cold light appeared in Nangongji's eyes. He immediately drew back his sword and gave another stab. He wanted to kill his opponent. Chua. Another flash of cold light drew over in an arch. Ling Han acted, stepping forward with a wave of his sword. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 97. Imparting. With a ding, Nangongji was forced back by this strike. He glared furiously at Ling Han, and said, "Who are you to dare to meddle in my affairs? Don't you know that interfering in a battle is a very serious offense?" Ling Han smiled softly and said, "He can no longer continue the battle, so this battle is already over. However, if you would like to have a spar with me, I don't mind teaching you a lesson." Nangongji glared angrily. Zhu Wuju had actually managed to form a flash of sword chi, and now possessed the preliminary qualifications to step into the ranks of rulers. Zhu Wuju may one day become a huge problem for him, and he had originally intended to finish him off completely today. He had never thought that their battle would be interrupted with Ling Han's interference. Brat. Those who meddle too much in the affairs of others never have a good ending. He threatened. Now, it was no longer possible for him to kill Zhu Wuju on the spot, so his heart was filled with furious rage. "You either battle with me now, or get lost. Don't babble so much," Ling Han said disdainfully. Nangongji looked very angered, yet in the end, he left in great strides with a wave of his hands. After feeling Ling Han's sword strike just now, he knew that the former was definitely not weaker than himself. Moreover, he was a cautious person, and would never go into battle unprepared. Since he was no longer able to kill Zhu Wuju, he simply chose to leave. However, judging from his character, this matter would not simply end like this. He would first investigate Ling Han's background thoroughly, and then decide what was to be done. Who's this guy, actually daring to oppose Nangongji? Should be one of the new students this year, right? From the looks of his aura, he only seems to be in the 5th layer of element gathering tier, yet he actually managed to scare off Nangongji. It's really strange. However, the Nangong clan is not to be trifled with, and there's also Nangong Xing, who is a true disciple of the academy. Forget it, we'd better not get too close to him, or we'd be inviting trouble to ourselves. The spectators discussed spiritedly, and very quickly departed from the martial training court. Zhu Wuju slowly and painstakingly got up. The special constitution of the Silver Moon race was indeed impressive. He had recovered considerably after this short period of rest, even after receiving such a serious injury. Of course, this rate of recovery could not be compared to the healing effects of the Indestructible Heaven Scroll. Firstly, the Indestructible Heaven Scroll was too high level, and secondly, Zhu Wuju himself was still too weak, and was unable to make full use of his special constitution's potential. "Why did you help me?" Zhu Wuju spoke. "Aren't you afraid of getting in trouble with the Nangong clan? Can't it be that I helped you because I couldn't stand the injustice happening in front of me?" Ling Han said with a smile. "I don't believe that there are still such naive people in this world." Zhu Wuju shook his head. "But I live in poverty and you won't be able to get much from me, so I advise you not to waste your energy." Then, Ling Han thought for a moment, "Become my subordinate. For the aid you've provided me today, I will definitely pay you back for your kindness another day." Zhu Wuju turned around to leave, obviously unwilling to accept the offer of becoming Ling Han's subordinate. Those who managed to get into Huyang Academy were all geniuses, so how could they be willing to be under the command of someone else? Ling Han did not chase after him. Instead, he said calmly, "You don't want your revenge anymore." Zhu Wuju's steps suddenly paused, and he slowed down. "I can teach you," Ling Han continued. "Within half a year, I will definitely be able to help you surpass Nangongji and take your revenge with your own hands." Zhu Wuju suddenly turned back round, and said, "Really? You've already said that you live in poverty. What would I get from lying to you?" Ling Han said with a smile. Zhu Wuju hesitated for a moment, and said, "All right, I agree to become your follower. If you are not able to help me surpass Nangongji within half a year, then this will be my payback for your help earlier. If you are able to, then my life will belong to you." This guy really was a loyal person. Still, becoming Ling Han's subordinate was in actual fact not a bad thing to happen to him. Instead, this was an opportunity of epic proportions. If it was not for the fact that Ling Han had shared an amicable friendship with the Silver Moon King years ago, he'd definitely not be wasting so much of his effort. Ling Han nodded, and said, "I'll impart to you a cultivation technique, and in the future, you have to switch to practicing this cultivation technique." He lowered his voice and imparted a cultivation technique to Zhu Wuju. It was called the Silver Moon Arts. That's right. This cultivation technique was created specifically for the Silver Moon race. Years ago, after the Silver Moon race had been wiped out, Ling Han, after achieving a high cultivation level, had once journeyed all over in search of the survivors of the Silver Moon race. He didn't find anyone, but he did find this most precious cultivation technique of the Silver Moon race, the Silver Moon Arts. He had an excellent memory. At the time, he had only flipped through the pages once, and managed to memorize the entirety of it. Otherwise, he would not have been able to take it out now. The Silver Moon Arts, when used by a member of the Silver Moon race such as Zhu Wuju, would fully display the might of his special constitution. At least, it would allow him to increase his battle prowess by 1 star. Moreover, the Silver Moon Arts was an Earth-grade high-level technique, so it would be enough to help Zhu Wuju very quickly catch up to Nangongji in cultivation level. Silver Moon Constitution and Sword Chi. If these two strengths added together still did not allow Zhu Wuju to emerge victorious over Nangongji, then he was really too useless. Zhu Wuju did not know that this was an Earth-grade high-level cultivation technique, nor did he know that it would help him make full use of the benefits of his special constitution. After asking about Ling Han's name and address, he left in a daze. After all, he was still injured, so he did need to recover. Meat. Hu tugged on Ling Han's sleeve in displeasure. All right, let's go have some meat," Ling Han said with a laugh. Ling Han. Brother Ling. Ling Han heard someone shout his name from a distance, and when he looked over, it was 4 of his old friends from Da Yuan City, Qi Yongyi, Jin Wuji, Bailey Tengyun, and Li Dongyue. Brother Ling came really late. "Today, you must punish yourself with drinking 3 cups of wine," Bailey Tengyun said. "How could 3 cups be enough? There should be at least 10 cups. Li Dongyue joined in on the banter. Meat. Hu jumped up and down. Ling Han laughed loudly, and said, "Let's go, I'll treat you guys to a meal today, and if you're not drunk by the end of it, you can't leave." "Nobody's leaving if they're not drunk." Qi Yongyi and the others laughed. The group of 5 adults plus 1 child exited the academy, found a restaurant and began their drinking spree. Yet Qi Yongyi and the others very quickly discovered gloomily that when a dish was served and there was meat in it, it would be instantly devoured by Hu Niu, not even leaving any scraps behind. They then entered into the fierce battle for food, but if you were talking about eating, who would be able to snatch food faster than Hu Niu? The little girl didn't even use chopsticks, and after using her bare hands to hold onto the food, how could the others find the desire to eat? This girl's stomach is a bottomless pit, right? Qi Yongyi and the others were all very curious, but not even Qi Yongyi recognized that the little girl in front of him was the one from the wrestling ring. After all, at that time, Hu Niu was very disheveled and completely filthy, unlike how she was now. And now, while she was still very wild, she looked very pretty and dainty, like a little porcelain doll. I am really envious of Brother Ling. You're already a true disciple from the moment you enroll in the academy, and can get your hands on uncountable resources for cultivation, Li Dongyue said ruefully. Qi Yongyi nodded, and said, there is really too much of a gap between true disciples and ordinary disciples. The gap between myself and Feng Yan hadn't really been very big, but now, AI. Fourth Prince, no matter what, at least you still have the royal house of the Da Yuan King supporting you, so you're already much better than the rest of us, Jin Wuji said immediately. That's right, the resources from the royal house of the Da Yuan King are even more abundant than the resources of all our 4 great parties added together. If you're going to complain about being poor, how are we supposed to go on? Bailey Teng Yun called out. Ling Han, I heard you have some grudges with Feng Luo. He's also entered the academy now, so you have to be careful. He might ask Feng Yan to deal with you, Qi Yongyi said all of a sudden. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 98. Lick my shoes. Feng Yan. The corners of Ling Han's lips turned up into a smile, and he said, how powerful is he now? No one's really clear about exactly how powerful he is now. But the last time he returned to the academy, he was already in the 4th layer of Gushing Spring tier. Plus, when someone saw him make a move in an ancient historical site, he had 4 flashes of saber qi, Qi Yongyi said solemnly. 4th layer of Gushing Spring tier was even higher than Kanyi's cultivation level. However, the change of core disciples was the same as the change of true disciples. It could only happen at the end of every year, whereupon challenges would be issued to determine who would be replaced and who would remain. Feng Yan most likely had just broken through. Moreover, cultivation level did not represent one's battle prowess. Kanyi's battle prowess was at 7 stars, so Feng Yan had not issued challenges to Kanyi, Zhao Huan, or Qi Feng Yun last month. Oh, right, before I came, I received the news that the Spiritual Treasures Pavilion will be holding an auction tonight. Anyone interested to go take a look? Jin Wuji asked all of a sudden. Spiritual Treasures Pavilion, Ling Han asked curiously. That's an auction house of the Imperial City. The boss is enshrouded in mystery. According to rumors, nobody knows who he is, not even if the boss is a man or a woman, nor whether he or she is old or young. However, he or she must definitely come from a very important background, because no one has ever dared to make trouble at Spiritual Treasures Pavilion, Jin Wuji explained. It's not that nobody dared to make trouble, it's that those who have made trouble before have all died. Thus, nobody dares to make trouble anymore, Qi Yongyi said. He could be considered as a member of the royal family, and so knew more than Jin Wuji. Interesting, then let's go have a look, Ling Han said with a smile. If he could obtain a few of the other necessary drugs to concoct the Restore Spirit pill at this auction house, then it wouldn't be too long before he could heal Ling Dongxing's spirit base. After he breaks through to Gushing Spring tier, he'd be able to train his divine sense. The stronger his divine sense was, the higher the grade of alchemical pills he could concoct. But the temperature of the flames he could produce was still a problem, for the temperature could only be increased by advancing in cultivation level. No matter how skilled he was at controlling the heat of the flames, there was always a maximum limit to the temperature of the flame. Father's lifespan is limited, so this cannot be delayed for too long. He thought, either I find someone to help me concoct the pill, or I fuse my flames with the strange fires of heaven and earth. With the help of the strange fires, the temperature of the flames can be increased. However, the strange fires are much too rare. Even in my last life, I had never found a strange fire. But 10,000 years have passed, so perhaps my luck will change. The strange fires were a type of spiritual fire formed naturally by the environment. Should a martial artist refine a strange fire, he'd be able to increase his cultivation level, or form a special physical constitution. For alchemists, if they were able to fuse their flames with a strange fire, they'd be able to increase their alchemy skill. Years ago, there had been a relatively unknown alchemist who had happened to fuse his flames with one of the strange fires, and eventually became a world-famous grandmaster alchemist. If Ling Han wanted to concoct the Restore Spirit pill within a short period of time, then fusing his flames with a strange fire seemed to be his only option. The greatest alchemist in Rain Country was only at Black Grade high level, and was absolutely not qualified enough to concoct an Earth Grade alchemical pill. They had mostly finished eating, so they paid the bill and left, heading towards the Spiritual Treasures Pavilion to take part in the auction that would be held there. Because it was not too far away, they did not hail down a carriage, and instead simply went there on foot. About 20 minutes later, they had finally arrived at the Spiritual Treasures Pavilion. This was a place that was specifically meant for the sale of treasures. What would be considered a treasure? Weapons, cultivation techniques, martial arts techniques, alchemical pills, and medicinal ingredients could all be considered treasures as long as they had a high enough value, and could be sold here. There would be an auction held here every month to sell off some rarer, more valuable treasures, and every several months or years, there would be a large-scale auction which, according to rumors, would even move the hearts of the imperial family and the 8 great clans. The auction that would be held today was the monthly auction. As such, there weren't many powerful warriors among the participants, but there was indeed a lot of people. It was only held once a month, after all, so there was a lot of rare, precious treasures that were going to be auctioned off. They were just about to enter when they saw 2 young men walk towards them. These 2 young men were walking quite closely together, and from the looks of it, they had a very close relationship. "Yi, it's you." When one of them saw Ling Han, his expression turned cold. He pointed a finger at Ling Han and said, "Ha ha ha, you stupid brat, you never thought this would happen, right? I still managed to enter into Huyang Academy, and I've even broken through to Element Gathering Tier. It was really too much of a coincidence." This guy was Feng Luo, but the fact that he had actually broken through to Element Gathering Tier was a bit unexpected. Based on his natural talent, he should not have been able to break through to Element Gathering Tier so quickly. However, in Ling Han's eyes, he was only a minor character, thus Ling Han did not take him to heart. He merely said calmly, "Remove your finger. If not, I do not mind breaking it for you." Feng Luo's face instantly looked enraged, but when he recalled Ling Han's battle prowess, he could not help fear creeping into his heart and withdrew his finger. Yet his mouth continued to say, "So what if you snatched away my place of enrollment into the academy? My brother still managed to help me enter the academy. Ling Han, let me tell you, don't think you can enjoy your days in the future. I will definitely destroy you." Feng Yan really did have his ways, to actually manage to procure a place of enrollment into Huyang Academy for his brother. Most likely, he was the same as Ling Dongxing, and made some kind of deal with the academy. Otherwise, no matter how much of a genius you were, it was impossible for the academy to place so much importance on you that they'd freely gift you a place of enrollment into the academy. Ling Han laughed in spite of himself, and said, "Idiots who dare to threaten me this way have never had good endings." "What big talk," the young man beside Feng Luo said. His face was filled with arrogance exceeding even Feng Luo's, his nostrils raised so high they were about to point skywards. "I have seen quite a number of arrogant people in this imperial city, but someone like you, TSK, this is the first time." "Hee hee. Ling Han, do you know who this is?" Feng Luo asked proudly, and pointing at his companion, said, "This is Wei Healer, young Master Wei. A rising star of the Huyang Academy, who would one day definitely become a black-grade alchemist." "So that is Wei Healer." Jin Wuji gasped in surprise. "Is he very strong?" Bailey Teng Yun asked, "But he's only in the first layer of Element Gathering Tier, right?" The first layer of Element Gathering Tier, even if he was a freak like Ling Han, it was absolutely useless. Against an opponent of the 9th layer of element gathering tier, the only result would be being single-handedly dominated by his much stronger opponent. Bailey Tengyun had just entered the Huyang Academy, so he did not know that there was an alchemy department and was unable to make head or tail of Jin Wuji's reaction. He is extremely talented in the field of alchemy, and is already a yellow-grade high-level alchemist. Some say that even the headmaster of the alchemy department has the intention to take him in as his personal disciple, Jin Wuji said in awe. When he saw the incomprehension still on Bailey Tengyun and Li Dongyu's faces, he continued to explain, and said, the Huyang Academy is actually divided into two, which are the martial arts department and the alchemy department. The headmaster of the alchemy department is a black-grade high-level alchemist. Hiss. At this moment, Bailey Tengyun and Li Dongyue took a sharp breath as they finally came to understand the background of Wei Healer. Black-grade high-level alchemist. Even if Zhu Hixin and Zhang Weishan saw him, they would still have to treat him with utmost respect and address him as Grandmaster. Ha 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 ha. Wei Healer laughed loudly. He hadn't said anything just now to give him a chance to understand fully his background, which would allow him to show off to the greatest level. He regarded them with disdain and said, I don't care what kind of grudges you guys have with young Master Luo, but since I have seen it today, then I'll act as the mediator. He paused for a moment, then said to Ling Han in a deep voice, kneel down, and lick young Master Luo's shoes clean. Feng Luo was extremely proud of himself. Today, with Wei Healer's support, if Ling Han did not submit, that would mean opposing Wei Healer. Who was Wei Healer? He was a yellow-grade high-level alchemist, and could even possibly be taken by Wu Songlin as disciple, with endless future prospects ahead of him. Anyone with a working brain would definitely not dare to go against Wei Healer. Today, he would be getting his payback, with interest. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 99. Thrash as usual. Qi Yongyi and the others looked absolutely furious at this. Asking him to kneel down and lick another's shoes, what kind of great humiliation was that? If this Wei Healer was in Gushing Spring tier, or a black-grade alchemist, then perhaps he would be qualified to make such unreasonable demands. But he was only a yellow-grade low-level alchemist, a martial artist at the mere level of first layer of element gathering tier. How did he get the confidence to talk so big? The people who were born in the imperial city truly acted like they were superior to anyone and everyone else. You've gone too far. Jin Wuji shouted immediately, Wei Healer, you're only a mere yellow-grade low-level alchemist now, don't you think you're talking too big? You dare to go against me? Wei Healer smiled coldly, looking extremely confident in himself. Indeed, he was only a yellow-grade low-level alchemist now, but his future prospects were limitless. Otherwise, why would Feng Luo go out of his way to deliberately befriend him? Of course, the reason why he had befriended Feng Luo was also because of Feng Yan. If not for Feng Yan, how would he have taken a mere martial artist of element gathering tier seriously? He possessed remarkable potential in the path of alchemy, while Feng Yan could possibly become a ruler in the field of martial arts. In this world, the strongest ruled after all. No matter how awesome an alchemist grew to be, he would still need the help of a powerful warrior proficient in martial arts. Jin Wuji instantly felt the urge to hit someone. Wei Healer was only in the first layer of element gathering tier, and from the looks of it, he had only managed to climb to this cultivation level with the help of alchemical pills. Jin Wuji would be able to easily dominate him with one hand behind his back. Furthermore, his status as a mere yellow-grade low-level alchemist did not worry him at all, as there was no way that there would come a day that Jin Wuji would make any requests of an alchemist of this lowly rank. The problem was that there was a high chance that Wei Healer may be taken in as disciple by Wu Songlin, and Wu Songlin was a black-grade high-level alchemist. Previously, they had all done Ling Han a favor by throwing their respective matches in Dayuan City because there stood two black-grade low-level alchemists behind him. However, Wu Songlin was a much grander figure than those two, so the pressure they felt was obvious. Jin Wuji's expression turned dark and cold, yet he did not open his mouth to speak. What right do you have to be so arrogant? Bailey Tengyun was in the prime of his youth, and so was easily moved by his emotions. He was also aware that he was a citizen of Da Yuan City, so even if this Wei Healer would one day become a black-grade alchemist, it would not affect him whatsoever. As a result, he naturally held no fear of offending Wei Healer. Wei Healer could not help showing displeasure at this, and said, "Are you challenging me? So what if I am? Do you dare to battle with me?" Bailey Tengyun said arrogantly. "Young Master Wei." It was at this moment that another 3 young men joined them. These 3 newcomers all had a powerful aura radiating from them. They had all reached the 9th layer of element gathering tier. "So it's you guys." Wei Healer spared a glance at them, and a faint, perfunctory smile appeared on his face. "Young Master Wei, have you encountered some kind of trouble?" one of them said with a smile. The speaker was dressed in green battle robes, and was quite tall. Wei Healer revealed a disdainful smile, pointed at Bailey Tengyun, and said, "This guy says he wants to challenge me. Ha 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 ha, where did this idiot come from, to actually dare to challenge young Master Wei?" The green-clad man laughed loudly. He crooked a finger in Bailey Tengyun's direction, and said, "Come, come, come. I shall be your opponent." How could Bailey Tengyun not react to such provocation? He was just about to agree when Qi Yongyi held him back and said, "Wen Haixing, when did you become so immature? An elite ranked among the top 100 actually intends to bully a junior that had just barely enrolled in the academy. So it's the King of Eternal Night." The green-clad man behaved as if he had just noticed Qi Yongyi. He raised his clasped hands in the latter's direction, and said, "No wonder you dare to oppose young Master Wei. The 4th Prince of Da Yuan City is indeed domineering." His words appeared to be praising Qi Yongyi, but in reality, they were an attempt to direct aggression to the latter. Wei Healer's expression immediately darkened, and he said, "So you are a noble. No wonder you are so arrogant." Since he was a child, he had already displayed outstanding talent in the field of alchemy. Everyone in his age range tried to curry his favor in order to form an amicable relationship with the great alchemist to be he was. Wen Haixing's words naturally caused him to feel very displeased about Qi Yongyi's actions. "Ling Han, are you going to kneel or not?" Feng Luo interrupted. The person he hated the most was naturally Ling Han, and Qi Yongyi was the 4th prince of Da Yuan City, and was highly likely to inherit the position of Da Yuan king in the future, so naturally Feng Luo was not willing to offend him. So this is the younger brother of elder brother disciple Feng Yan. When Wen Haixing and his companions found out Feng Luo's identity, they all smiled immediately. Though they themselves looked down upon Feng Luo, they dared not show any disdain towards him in public. Feng Yan was too strong, and according to rumors, had the ability to challenge and join the ranks of the core disciples. One of them immediately looked towards Ling Han, and said, "Brat, I, Shen Yushuan, am just going to say this now. If you are unable to make younger brother disciple Feng Luo satisfied, then you will only be sent back to the academy on a stretcher. I, Mi Zhongguang, am the same." The third person said. Feng Luo was extremely proud. He laughed loudly, and said, "Ling Han, do you still dare to be so unreasonable with me? Who do you think you are, to dare to put on airs in front of me? You've humiliated me repeatedly. Who do you think I am? One single finger of mine is more precious than the whole you by 10,000-fold." Wei Healer and the others smiled coldly. A mere foreign new student would naturally not be taken seriously by them. The only people they would have misgivings about going against were only the direct heirs of the 8 great clans. Outside the entrance, the 4 guards of the Spiritual Treasures Pavilion looked on with indifference. As long as no one was making trouble in the Spiritual Treasures Pavilion, then even if the sky collapsed, they would not interfere. "Kneel!" Feng Luo roared loudly. "Kneel your sister!" Ling Han reached out with his hand, which sped towards Feng Luo. "How dare you!" Wen Haixing, Mi Zhongguang, and Shen Yushuan all acted at the same time. They were all in the 9th layer of element gathering tier, and were extremely strong. None of them was inferior to Qi Yongyi. The simultaneous movement of all 3 was terrifyingly powerful. "Get out of my way!" Ling Han, using the exiting cloud steps, actually managed to squeeze past the restraining movements of all 3 of them. Wen Haixing and the others were all shocked. They'd noticed that Ling Han was only in the 5th layer of element gathering tear and so completely did not take him seriously. Who would have thought that Ling Han was actually so fast and had such a weird way of moving? As a result, they had not used their full power, allowing Ling Han to easily break through their siege. Ling Han had already appeared in front of Feng Luo, and his extended hand was already reaching towards the latter. You dare! Wei Healer slanted his body to one side to stand in front of Feng Luo. He was well aware that he was a yellow-grade low-level alchemist, and was possibly the future disciple of the headmaster of the alchemy department. So no matter how bold Ling Han was, he knew that Ling Han would not dare to touch a single hair on his head. Pa! However, his thoughts had just barely formed when a forceful slap from Ling Han smacked him out of the way. Damn, this guy really dared to hit him. Another slap from Ling Han caused Feng Luo to fall to the ground. Without waiting for him to get up, one of Ling Han's feet stepped very firmly on Feng Luo's face. Bastard, you actually dare to step on me. You are definitely tired of living, my brother will definitely kill you. Definitely. Feng Luo wailed terribly while continuing to threaten Ling Han. Indeed, only a profligate, spoiled young master like him dared to issue such threats in public. What kind of place was the imperial city? Here, murder was a heavily punished crime. At the side, Wei Healy's face was also filled with fury. He had actually been slapped away by someone. This was too insolent, too detestable. He will definitely not spare this reckless fool. Yi, younger brother disciple Wei. It was at this moment that a young man and woman walked over. When the maiden clearly saw Wei Healy's face, she revealed a surprised expression. Elder sister disciple Li. Wei Healer hurriedly got to his feet. His hands remained lowered at his sides, looking extremely respectful. This young maiden was Li Si-chan. In front of others, Wei Healer could put on an extremely arrogant attitude, but in front of Li Si-chan, he could only obediently withdraw all his prideful obnoxiousness, because Li Si-chan's talent in alchemy was far above his own. Wu Songlin favored only his talent, but Li Si-chan was truly his most favorite disciple. Even if he really did become Wu Songlin's disciple, he'd still have to treat Li Si-chan with utmost respect. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao. Chapter 100, Intimidated. The young man that had walked in together with Li Si-chan revealed an angered expression. Who dares to be so bold as to disrespect an alchemist? It's he Jun Chen. Qi Yongyi's brow immediately frowned, a true disciple, second layer of gushing spring tear. He had not spoken in a low voice, as he was trying to forewarn Ling Han of this formidable newcomer. Wei Healer, on the other hand, smiled. With an elite in the second layer of gushing spring tear as his support, then no matter how strong Ling Han was, it wasn't possible for him to turn this situation around. He said, Big brother this brat is too arrogant. He bullied elder brother disciple Feng Yan's younger brother, Feng Luo, first, and because I couldn't simply do nothing, I said a few words of justice. And he reacted by slapping me down to the ground. Oh, then I would really like to see, who is so awesome. He Jun Chen said coldly. Ling Han. Li Si-chan had finally spotted Ling Han now, and could not help but walk forwards a few steps. She said, Where are you staying now? I've been looking for you everywhere. Hiss. What was the relationship between these two people? Hearing Li Si-chan's words, everyone could not help but feel curious. Could it be that maybe they? He Jun Chen's expression instantly darkened. He was one of Li Si-chan's admirers, and now his dream girl actually uttered words with such ambiguous meaning, causing him to instantly feel as bad as if he had swallowed a fly. No, no, no. My master is the one looking for you. Li Si-chan hurriedly corrected her words, sensing the awkward ambiguousness of what she had said. Oh, what's your master looking for me for? Ling Han asked very nonchalantly. Master would like to invite you to tea. Pooh. Practically everyone choked out of astonishment. Who was Li Si-chan's master? Wu Songlin. And who was Wu Songlin? A black-grade high-level alchemist, the headmaster of the alchemy department, and an ultra-big, extremely important person that could practically cause the whole of Rain Country to tremble with a few stomps of his feet. Such a major character actually wanted to invite Ling Han to tea. Hiss. How many people were actually able to have the honor of having tea together with Wu Songlin? The clan heads of the 8 great clans, the pavilion master of Heaven's medicine pavilion, the headmaster of the martial arts department, probably just these few people, right? But this was Ling Han, an extremely minor character that had just enrolled into Huyang Academy. Could it be that he was able to stand on even footing with all these very important people of Rain Country? I don't have the time, Ling Han said calmly. Pooh. Instantly, everyone once again choked, all wearing expressions of extreme disbelief. Wu Songlin's invitation to tea, most likely not even the clan heads of the 8 great clans dared to say they didn't have the time, right? This brat was really too awesome, and he had even rejected the invitation so cleanly. Qi Yongyi, Bailey Teng Yun, and the others all looked overjoyed. As their hearts beat wildly, they knew for sure that they had made the right gamble. But even they had never thought that Ling Han had just barely entered into the Huyang Academy yet had already formed relations with the headmaster of the alchemy department, a black-grade high-level alchemist. Moreover, it seemed to be an extremely good relationship. If they discovered that even the other black-grade high-level alchemist of Rain Country, the pavilion master of Heaven's medicine pavilion, had to respectfully address Ling Han as young Master Han, one wonders what kind of expression these people would have. Release me, damn you, you actually dared to step on me, I will definitely not spare you. Feng Luo was still wailing. His face was still stepped on firmly by Ling Han's foot, so he couldn't hear what the others were saying. However, even if he had heard, based on his knowledge, there was no way he would understand the significance of the name Wu Songlin. Everyone's attitude changed at the same moment. Ling Han was someone that even Wu Songlin wanted to invite to tea, who would dare to oppose such a person? Feng Yan indeed had a very bright future ahead of him, but how could he compare with a black-grade high-level alchemist? Weihila was even less of a consideration in their minds. The current him wasn't even Wu Songlin's personal disciple yet. Apologies for our prior offense. Please bear with us, younger brother disciple Ling. We would definitely visit you to make a formal apology on another day. Wen Haixing and his fellows said as they raised their clasped hands in Ling Han's direction in apology. In their hearts, they were already gritting their teeth with hatred towards Weihila and Feng Luo. If it was not for the two of them, how could they have offended Ling Han? Ling Han only gave a casual wave of his hand. He had not taken these 3 young men seriously in the first place. Wen Haixing and his fellows were angered at first, but when they recalled that Ling Han was someone that Wu Songlin wanted to invite to tea, their anger instantly disappeared. If it was Wu Songlin who had treated them this way, would they dare to be angry? Of course not, and that's the end of it. On the other hand, Qi Yongyi and the others all looked extremely satisfied. You guys were so arrogant just now, and now you're cowering like dogs. They all crossed their arms in front of their chests and raised their heads high, looking very disdainful. Wen Haixing and his friends did not even dare to say anything. They hurriedly turned around and left, not even staying to participate in the auction. How would they still have the mood to? Rather, they were all thinking about how to gain Ling Han's forgiveness in the future. Weihili's expression changed multiple times, as if he were a chameleon. In the end, he clenched his teeth, walked towards to Ling Han, and said, Young Master Han, I was ignorant. I hope that you will generously forgive my misdemeanor this one time. Who are you? Ling Han asked serenely. Weihila instantly felt like he wanted to bite someone, thinking, you didn't lose anything, and I was the one who received a slap from you. And now I'm actively apologizing, so why are you still unwilling to let the matter drop? Younger brother disciple, do you have some kind of misunderstanding with Ling Han? Li Xichan's expression immediately darkened as she watched this happen. She was very clear what kind of position Ling Han held in her master's heart. He was someone that her master would practically respect and revere as a grandmaster alchemist. And you idiot actually dare to come into conflict with Ling Han, that was really seeking your own demise. It's nothing much, really. Just that Brother Ling and young Master Luo seem to have some kind of misunderstanding between them. I wanted to help 'em mediate a bit, but who would have thought that both of them were a bit too quick-tempered, which led to a bit of a misunderstanding, Wei Healer said, playing down the matter. His cold eyes were fixed on Ling Han, but burning hatred for Ling Han had risen within his heart. However, he had regained his bearings from the earlier shock that he had experienced. He did not believe that Wu Songlin would invite Ling Han to tea. Who were you trying to fool? Who was Wu Songlin? And who was Ling Han? Even the two of them knowing each other was practically an impossibility, what more drinking tea together? It must be that Li Xichan was the one who had been looking for Ling Han, but because she was afraid of letting others know about that, she had pushed all the blame to Wu Songlin. Why? Because who would dare to confirm this kind of matter with Wu Songlin? And that's the answer itself. He was indeed very respectful and reverent towards Li Xichan, but because he felt as if he had now gotten hold of her weakness, he naturally felt very bold. Brother Wei, you've spoken too lightly, haven't you? Jin Wuji said with a cold laugh. Just now, you had wanted Ling Han to kneel down to lick Feng Luo's shoes. What? Li Xichan's face instantly became as cold as ice, and when she looked at Wei Healer, it was as if she was looking at a dead man. She would definitely have to report this matter to Wu Songlin, and based on Wu Songlin's respect towards Ling Han, it was a huge question whether Wei Healer would even be allowed to remain at the alchemy department, what more to become Wu Songlin's personal disciple. Elder sister disciple Li, you mustn't just listen to their side of the story. Wei Healer had already made up his mind to continue his lies, so naturally he would not be making any concessions. Ling Han, when are you going to raise your foot? Feng Luo shouted gloomily, both enraged and embarrassed. You guys are really having fun talking, but he was still lying on the ground, and there was still a foot stepping on his face. Ling Han gave a humph, and added a bit of strength into his foot, causing Feng Luo to suddenly wail in pain. His face was already twisted to an extreme degree. He looked at the spectators, and said with a smile, don't worry, I will not be killing him here. When everyone heard these words, they all felt a hair-raising chill. The implication in Ling Han's words was clear to them, he would still be killing Feng Luo one day. End of the chapter. Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Tao will be read in 5 chapters for every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. Please leave this sound novel and press subscribe, follow, and the bell so you don't miss any new clips as well. See you.